We are Brock and Liz, who are the partner account managers for Dropbox. And this is a session to give people a 45-minute deep dive into Dropbox if they've just signed up or perhaps shown an interest in it. So Liz, I'll pass over to you.
So in terms of what we want to cover today, we're going to focus on what is Dropbox, give you an understanding of the network and how we currently work and where we're going. We want to cover the most common sales scenarios, so you guys know how to kind of have that first conversation with your potential customers. Then we want to find out and talk about whether Dropbox is right for all, Dropbox for Business is right for all of your customers. Because there are some customers out there that it won't be suitable for. But those customers that it is suitable for, you know, what's next? Where do you go from there? And then finally, we want to focus on who from both Ingram Micro and Dropbox can help you close those customers and work with you to ensure that you are seeing success in Dropbox for Business. Perfect. So what is Dropbox?
Liz, we'll just, Ewan, we'll just do a quick sound check. Everyone seems happy with the audio at this point? All right, 2 thumbs up. The value of Dropbox Business really comes about when you think about in 2017, how does a company work versus perhaps 20 or 30 years ago, and what tools are required to enable people to get their work done really efficiently in a world where people have very high expectations of IT tools to be as simple as possible and create as few barriers to learning as possible. So some research from Accenture showed that right now, 80% of businesses surveyed see a further blurring of boundaries between what constitutes work done by the employees of their business versus what's done with the partners and external contractors that they're often reliant on. So in the picture that you see here is it's quite often that a business will be using internal people, external people, but also on the same tools and the same files, collaborating with partners and customers. And businesses are very globally dispersed, and the trend has been for the last 30 years with globalization is to have more and more businesses employing the percentage of the world's workforce. Right now, 85 million people are employed by the biggest multinationals in the world, but the trend for the next 20 years is for that number to actually go the other way. There'll be less employees employed by the biggest multinationals. There'll be more startup businesses created, and there'll be more reliance on external parties, third parties, contractors for businesses getting their work done. So, you know, there's blurring of the boundaries between who is an employee of your company and who's someone that you just use when you need them. And there's going to be more and more startups being created because the multinationals actually decreasing their workforce. It means that platform flexibility becomes that much more important. If you're working on a project or starting up a new business, you're going to need to make sure that everyone is able to use the same tools to get work done. And I think where Dropbox has been synonymous in the past with our 11 million users in Australia and 500 million around the world has been bottoms-up activity. People have brought Dropbox into the workforce. They've started collaborating and not really waited for someone to show them whether or not it was possible. They've just gone and done it. And it's led to an enormous amount of Dropbox licenses being used across 8 million businesses globally. Primarily, it's been for external sharing. How do you get that 30 or 40 megabyte file out to a customer or an agency when it's too big to email? Now, with Dropbox Business, which has actually only been around for 3 years, we've said we will still make sure that that bottom-up innovation is being created with Dropbox, but we're going to give tools to the management and IT that enables core workflows to be created. So those top-down procedures and processes and projects for Dropbox Business, you can support those with things like team folders.
So as Brock mentioned earlier, there's over 500 million members globally that currently use Dropbox in some sort of capacity. In Australia alone, there's 11 million. So that's nearly 1 out of 2 Australians that are currently leveraging Dropbox. And when you break that down, there's a whole lot of babies out there that can't be using Dropbox and a whole lot of old people that potentially don't want to be using Dropbox or don't need to in their older age. So the bulk of people using it are people that are currently at school, currently in the workforce, or just coming out of the end of their kind of tenure within the workforce. So those people are actively leveraging Dropbox to store files, photos, share and collaborate with other people in their network. Over 3.3 billion connections across Dropbox. So people sharing links and files and working together, whether it's on business projects or personal projects. There are over 200,000 business customers, so a range of different organisations from all areas in the world that are leveraging Dropbox on a day-to-day basis. So what we want to do now is Brock's going to walk you through how those people are actively collaborating.
So the first one is Dropbox Business enabling people to improve collaboration through their teams. So what we've got here, and I'm conscious there may be a little bit of a delay while people are able to try to access this, stream this video through their tool, but this is a company and it's showing their internal workers using Dropbox. Now the dots are users and the lines are shared folders or shared files between them. Now this shows that on the periphery, there's some people who have got a Dropbox account, maybe they've only used it for one or two purposes and they're not terribly active. It's probably not necessary to have those people using Dropbox Business. But that center group, that baseball effectively of collaboration where those people are sharing files and folders all the time, they're living and breathing with Dropbox, that's an opportunity for Dropbox Business. Because the blue here in this star catcher shows free users. So these are people that are making the best out of what is a limited tool with only very limited storage. What we want to bring them is the benefits of Dropbox Business.
So as we've kind of mentioned, it's really important that organisations have better control over the company's data. And what you guys can currently see on the slide is a snapshot of the data that we can pick up on organisations. Now, just be aware, what we've done today is we leveraged a large organisation just to kind of give you the real nitty-gritty on how it works. But we can pull this data on organisations that have 5 employees, 20 employees, all the way up to hundreds of thousands of employees. And so depending on your specific needs, you'll liaise with your partner account manager, so myself or Brock, or if you're in New Zealand, Ewan, and your end customer to actually get this type of information. Now, the great piece of information that you can see on here is all the number of users. So you get a clear understanding of how many users there are, how many people are using Plus accounts, how many people are potentially already using business accounts. It also gives you the ability to see what devices are connected. Now, in some organisations, you'll have your bring your own device policy. No problem. So there might be Macs, PCs, you name it, connected. Whereas other organisations may have specific devices. So you can actually drill in on this information to see if your employees are connecting their solutions to other devices that maybe they're not meant to be. You can also see the amount of data that's being stored into Dropbox. So is it being shared or is it just being kept internally? And then you can really drill down on the file types. And I think that's really important for a lot of organizations because they need to understand what file types are being put into Dropbox. And if the company is using free Dropbox, why are they leveraging it? Is it because the emails, they can't email the files they need to be emailing? Their current systems in play don't work. And the nice one I also just want to point out is top collaborating domains. We were working with a customer a couple of months ago and they actually saw this data on their organization and their eyes went straight down to top domain collaborations because the top domain that their company was collaborating with was their direct competitor. So being able to see how your organization is actually working and in quite a detailed manner is super valuable for the organizations that you'll be partnering with because it means that you can help provide them the right information and the right advice on how to control their assets and also give them intelligence that they may not have had originally. So what we're going to do now is play you a little bit of a video on the back end of Dropbox. It gives you a snapshot on how you actually leverage Dropbox for business, how you provision licenses, request more licenses, and fully see, how much storage is used and how you can get data in terms of Dropbox. So by clicking on the Members tab, and if this is a little bit behind for you, don't worry, you'll get there. What the Members tab does is take you to a snapshot of your whole organization. You can suspend and delete users. You can have that user's details and data shared to somebody else in the organization, and you can make sure all their devices are remote wiped. It also gives you the ability to sign in as the user. So maybe one of your customers, employees is away or sick. You can go into their account, access the files that you need, and get all the information for proposals. In terms of activity allows you to drill down on the time and date. So you can focus on any date range and over 50 different specific activities that your employees may be doing. So whether that's signing in from multiple devices, signing in from different IP addresses, specifically looking for folders, or other related activity that your employees may potentially be doing. If you're working with accounting firms, you may want to ensure that you have all the information and you're running your annual reports for your organisation, understanding what groups have been created recently, how those groups have been changed, removing team members, signing in when things haven't worked, so sign-ins have failed as well. Team folders are a great functionality, and we're just going to walk you through this. What you can do is you can create specific team folders for your organisation, and then you can be really tight on the way that you actually structure them. So will they only be shared internally? Will they be managed by the IT team? Will they be managed by the individuals in those particular folders? Will we be sharing folders within those folders externally? So you have the full ability to do the nested shared folders feature that a lot of organisations look for these days. And as you can see, it's as simple as clicking Manage Access. Groups. I love groups because it makes it really easy when you're working with a lot of people. Groups allow you to set up specific groups, so like marketing, HR, sales, and every time you want to add an individual to a folder, you can add them to the group and they'll automatically be provisioned all the folders that that specific group is involved in. Settings. So settings give you the ability to go through a whole lot of different account features, but early access is one of the most important. It gives you the ability to access any of our new features that are currently sitting in beta testing, or they're already provisioned and they're ready to go, but we're only releasing them slowly to our customers. It also gives you the ability to set up single sign-on. And look, it's pretty simple process to setting it up, and I'm sure all of you will be able to do it, but we can provide you different information on step-to-step guides on how you actually do that. You can say how many devices you want to have approved, whether you want people to run dual accounts or not to run dual accounts. If you want to set up permanent deletion, you can also set the number of apps, the team apps that are used across your organisation. And we didn't mention this earlier, but as you can see, there are thousands and thousands of different apps that an organisation can have connected. And it's extremely powerful because it's the way your employees and customers will be working. So being able to see the apps that they're using can make sure that they're more effective in terms of their day-to-day workability. Perfect. So now we're just going to move on to the most common sales scenarios.
Thank you, Liz. Look, as Liz pointed out, Dropbox has integrations with thousands of other companies, and I strongly encourage you to Google a site called, just type in Dropbox app integrations, and it's a landing page we've created for all of those premier software partners that have a brilliant interconnectivity with Dropbox. Having said that, by far the most common situation we come across when we're talking to partners is end customers looking to move to Office 365 or already has. They're potentially going to evaluate OneDrive and SharePoint, or they've done that and now made the move to Dropbox. In some ways, we are a competitor to Microsoft, but the far more common scenario is that we're very complementary. So Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, touched on this in that quote in the top right corner. And there's some really powerful reasons why Dropbox is very important to Microsoft, not least the fact that there's over 40 billion Microsoft files saved in Dropbox every year, and that number continues to increase. So for those power users of Microsoft out there that of Office and Microsoft and know are using Dropbox, we've made sure that you get a first-class experience. So whether or not you're working on Office on the desktop, Office on the mobile, or online, there's very tight integration with Dropbox. So I think the next point is your customer right for Dropbox and Dropbox Business? Over to you, Liz.
Cool. So I just want to give you one example of a customer of mine that's currently leveraging Dropbox. So Aptus Accounting and Advisory. Many accountants and customers that are involved in accounting get very concerned about leveraging Dropbox as a tool. Aptus Accounting is an organisation that partners heavily with Xero. Now, they have used Dropbox now as their complete solution. They actually moved from SharePoint over to Dropbox. They no longer use anything other than Dropbox as a way to engage with their customers, collect receipts and invoices, and also make sure that they're sharing the tax file information. So a lot of you would jump at that, as tax file numbers are not allowed to be sent via email. Well, Dropbox has given me the ability to collaborate and share their documents by password protecting them, so the tax file number in email isn't by a breach. It's going via Dropbox as a password protected link, and they simply just send a text message. They've now turned their organisation into a paperless office by leveraging Dropbox Paper on top of that. And what they've done is they've essentially built it out like a wiki, and every new tax law document or tax form, they add to this particular paper document, and its contents out and indexed, and it gives them the ability to update it as they're moving forward, and year on year as tax information changes, they simply just update it and save it all into their Dropbox. Now, they've shared all the folders with their employees so they can actually manage how their employees are leveraging Dropbox, and then if someone leaves the business, they can offboard them and remote wipe all their devices.
Thanks, Liz. Now, these logos are all just local wins that we've had through the partner network. One that I'd like to talk about is AgNvet. So this is a 450-person agriculture company with over 60 sites across Australia. They moved to Office 365 through their partner, and part of that was to be rolling out OneDrive and SharePoint. Now, they discovered that, we actually helped bring it to their attention through the partner that they had a huge amount of organic Dropbox usage internally. And when they had so many sites across Australia and staff that weren't actually terribly technically literate, and they looked at what the cost of deploying SharePoint and OneDrive for each of those users and factoring in how much change management and training was going to be required to get those people up and running on those tools, they then evaluated Dropbox Business. They were very happy with the integrations with different O365 SKUs. So in their case, they had some employees on E1, some on E3, and they've actually purchased Dropbox over a two-year deal where they initially rolled out 180, and then each 6 months we check in on how much additional usage there is, and we just bill them accordingly for those extra people. So we envisage over a 2-year period, 450 staff will be moving on to Dropbox Business.
And I think it's really nice to hear of Australian case studies, but I also think it hits home when you guys are able to see some of the bigger customers that we're working with. Bigger doesn't mean better, but you can see that across a range of different industries, both regulated and, not necessarily as regulated. There are customers like Bauer Media, National Geographic, Facebook, Pinterest, Spotify. You've got your education organisations that are leveraging us. You've got your retail, so Expedia and Hyatt. You've also got, as I mentioned, those regulated industries, so like NASDAQ and Macquarie Bank. Now, when you think about those organisations that are leveraging Dropbox, if they could be doing it, most of your customers can as well. And I think there's that misconception sometimes that people are scared of the cloud and don't completely understand how it works. And also, a lot of your customers will be so used to leveraging free Dropbox that they won't actually understand the business piece. And that's why you've got to really educate them on why they should be using business for business. And that's something that we can take you through at a separate time if you've got questions around that and how we position it with our customers for our partners as well.
So, if so, what next? You've probably identified that Dropbox Business is useful for companies that you currently manage or that you would like to in future that have a large number of mobile workers, perhaps are using Office 365. There's large file types, perhaps would be using files other than Microsoft, so you can benefit from the really powerful ability that Dropbox has to preview over 140 different types of files without actually requiring you to download it. Those kind of rules of thumb, right? But how do you actually isolate, yes, Dropbox Business is right for this customer? Well, you come to us first for domain insights. So that company that we showed before that had several thousand free Dropbox accounts and also a smattering of Dropbox Business, we can provide that report for you on your customers. Now, an important note here is to make sure that there is no breakage of trust between yourselves and us and the customer. Really important to get it in writing from the customer that, yes, they want to see that information. That way, we don't have any issues with sharing it with yourselves. Then let's think about references. Okay, so if you're working with companies in construction or media or education or manufacturing, come to us and get reference cases of either Australian or global businesses that have actually gone through this process so they can get some peace of mind. And the last part is a demo. So as a Dropbox partner, you are entitled to 5 free Dropbox Business Advanced licenses. It's over $1,500 of value. And the reason we're doing that is because we want you to be absolute experts living and breathing Dropbox Business, using it to run your business. So when the time comes to demonstrate it to a customer, it's like second nature. One of the great, really powerful demonstrations that you can do for Dropbox Business, especially for a company that may be considering moving off a file server and moving to Dropbox Business, is something called Smart Sync. So as you can see in this video, on the Dropbox on the desktop, you now have different icons showing whether or not a file is downloaded and saved to the computer, or it's just an online version only. For want of a better word, it's kind of like a place marker. So in this folder, ITT test folder, you can see that all of those files there, the Deliveroo, the Mirvac case study, all have an online only little logo. That means they're searchable, they're indexable, but they're not actually taking up any space. With one click, I can actually download any of those files. And when you do so, you'll notice that it's actually saving the file to the desktop and taking up 377 kilobytes of space on the disk. The really cool thing here, though, is you can right-click on that, and that same file hasn't moved in location, hasn't removed it from your desktop. It's still there, but it's now taking up 0 bytes on the disk. You can do this at a folder level, on a file level, over several 100,000 files. And what that means is that even files that are taking up 0 space can rapidly be opened on your desktop. Now, I think I will show in a second that the status of any of those files can be changed from online to offline. In my particular desktop here, there's 95 gigabytes of files that are accessible. There's only about 47 gigabytes of space that's being taken up. So that's saving an awful lot of space when you think about people using Surface Pros and MacBook Airs. All right, so hopefully if we're doing a relatively decent job, the customer's kind of impressed. They're a little bit surprised. They're maybe not aware of all of these amazing Dropbox Business features. They were still thinking Dropbox is that place that I chuck my holiday photos. But they could be a little bit daunted. This is a big change both for yourself and it could be for the customer. But
what are you doing this week?
We're here to show you it's not actually too scary.
Do it yourself? No, I'm going to get some ball pins. Oh, come on, Mike, do it yourself. She's pretty big job. You'll be what? You reckon? We can knock it over in half a day. Yeah, get a couple bites round. Hey, Jonesy! Huh? Get the hammer for job Saturday. No, you're dreaming. Buzzy. Yeah, nice place here.
DIY. It's in our DNA.
So that was demonstrating that Australians aren't terribly hard workers, but also that Dropbox is, sorry, I don't mean that at all. It actually is meant to convey that Dropbox business isn't terribly difficult to deploy. There's probably 3 big rocks that you need to cover off. Migration of data, connecting to Active Directory for your customer, and we have our own AD connector that makes that very, very easy, and then setting up single sign-on. Probably the most daunting out of those 3 things would be the migration. You know, if you're moving 10, 20 terabytes of data from someone's file server into the cloud, usually requires a pretty powerful tool that's able to keep those folders intact and all of the permissions, and is able to develop a strong connection with the Dropbox cloud so you can get that information up there very quickly. Now, you can just install Dropbox on the server for the purpose of the migration, and if you've got a decent internet connection, you won't actually need to use one of these migration partners. However, we recommend that if it's a small amount of data being moved from one cloud to another, say if customers moving from OneDrive to Dropbox Business, the mover.io product is fantastic, and it costs, I actually did a migration myself, about 100 gigabytes from OneDrive, and it only cost $45. The Cloud FastPath product by Turbella, which is the logo at the other end, is what we would regard as best in class. It's a product that you will have to pay for, but if you're wanting to do a large migration, it's very, very simple and very easy to use. And you can ask us for a bit more information about those afterwards. Last part is, this is actually a very good product for you as a managed service provider once it is up and running. So based on an analysis of over 600,000 Dropbox business customers last year, we determined that there are 0.1 tickets created per business user per year. So that would mean in a team of 10 Dropbox business users, you're going to get 1 support ticket. Now, if you're doing a fixed price managed service contract for an end customer, this means that you can be fairly confident that you're not going to have a lot of IT hassles that are going to affect your gross margin.
So the team, I kind of mentioned earlier today who was going to be here to help you. Now, if you're logged on from New Zealand, Ewan is your man. Ewan will be able to assist you with anything from a Dropbox perspective, help you with your customer demos, and engage you with the right AEs. But in terms of Australia, I just want to flag with you this particular slide walks through the Ingram Micro Southern and Northern region teams and also covers Brock and I. So just to begin, at the first photo on the slide, you can see Daniel, and then at the opposite end, you can see Alan. Alan and Daniel both work on the southern part of Australia, so they focus on Victoria, Tasmania, Western Australia, and South Australia. They are your people that can help you from an Ingram Micro perspective. In the middle, you have Zoe, Sam, and Emmy. So they are on the northern team. Zoe, Sam, girl, and Emmy, Sam girl, are based in New South Wales and focus predominantly on New South Wales. And Sam Man focuses on Queensland. They also cover ACT and Northern Territory as well, but they're the people that can help you guys directly. And Brock and I can always put you in touch with the right people if you're ever concerned. Now, in terms of Dropbox, Brock covers northern regions, so Northern Territory, Queensland, New South Wales and ACT, and I cover the southern regions, so Western Australia, Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania.
I think a key point here is if it's a question about Dropbox business, whether it's technical or how to get enough resource to get a customer over the line or it's post-sale support, come to myself, Liz and Ewan. If it's a question about billing, then it's best handled by Ingram Micro. So hopefully that makes it pretty clear about who's best to come to for what.
Here's just a quick snapshot in terms of our localized support, in terms of the channel, specifically the channel. As you can see, we have email and chat support from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, even though everything is Eastern Standard Time, those that are not in Eastern Standard Time don't have to worry because our Dublin office kicks in at 5 p.m. Sydney time, and they also have San Francisco and Austin that cover the other hours. So it's essentially 24 hours via email, and that's something that we wanted to flag with you. Now, if it's a real urgent emergency, I would recommend either CCing myself, Brock, or Ewan on all those emails, because we sometimes will be able to proactively help and also escalate those urgent issues. So what did we cover today? What is Dropbox? So hopefully you learn a few new things about what Dropbox business is and how it kind of differentiates itself to free Dropbox. Some of the most common sales scenarios, is your customer the right customer for Dropbox for business? And as I said, sometimes they're not. That's okay. Move on. Don't get bogged down with the ones that aren't. If they are, what's next? So how you can actually engage them and get them across the line. And then who from a Dropbox and Ingram Micro perspective can help you guys be successful in terms of closing the deal, but also making sure there's no issues when it comes to the billing. So Brock and I and Ewan wanted to thank you for today. We hope you've learnt something.
And I think it's now an opportunity if there's any questions online to ask. Hello, someone's just taken their self off mute. Was there a question that you had? Cool. Were there any chat questions that have come through?
If you're nervous about asking questions, I'm that nervous person. By all means, just email us and we'll be able to help you at a later stage.
Cool. I really appreciate your time. This was just a quick introduction. Wanted to cover off Dropbox in 45 minutes. There will be much more in-depth webinars going forward. We will keep you posted. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.